Vicki, they're ready to vote now. Darling, you know how I stand on this. But unfortunately, I think it's you and me against the rest of the vestry. That means 2 losing votes and 3 for.
Not necessarily. Not if Virginia Douglas votes with us. I did try to convince her, but I don't know if I got through.
You'd think that her son standing up and speaking for Andrew would count for something.
Yeah, but she's afraid for her son. And that fear could make her go either way.
Well, I guess all we can hope is that someone in there has enough conscience not to take part in a kangaroo court.
They had better, for Andrew's sake. Otherwise, St. James is going to lose a very fine man.
Andrew.
Nick.
Hey, man, look here. This was thrown through one of the windows at the community center while Rachel was inside. It's a miracle she didn't get cut by some flying glass.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Now, whoever threw this thing, they did more than just break a window, man. They broke the law. And since it was my daughter who almost got hit, it just became a little more personal. You know what I'm saying?
No, I guess I don't know what you're saying. Why don't you come out and tell me?
Andrew, gay bashing is real. It's real and it's ugly. Now look, whether you're gay or not doesn't mean squat to me. But if you're not and you're keeping silent, well, there's going to be more anger, more gossip, and more of these thrown. Now, is that what you want?
Are you saying that I'm to blame for these attacks on me? Because if that's what you're saying, I hope you're not doing too much rape counseling these days.
I can respect you taking a stand. Now, what you do and who you do it with, that's your personal business.
Sounds pretty good. Why are you here?
To get you to open your eyes. If your own church council is ready to string you up without a trial, and then the neighborhood gangs are out there taking cheap shots
Hank,
at
we're in full agreement here. This is more than a private matter. It's a community problem.
Yeah, right. So you agree that something needs to be done?
Absolutely.
What?
Well, if I keep my job, I'll be preaching this Sunday. The sermon's going to be about tolerance.
I'm not talking about a sermon here, okay? Now, look, I asked you once if you would just consider stepping down from being a co-founder
so
of the
that's what
center.
this is about, huh, Hank? That's what this is about.
Andrew, I am just trying to do what's best for those kids. Now, if you insist on pulling them into your personal battle...
You call it a personal. You say it's a personal matter. I say, what do I mean to those kids? I thought I was supposed to be an example or a role model, whatever you want to call it. Now, if I back down because of some gang violence, what kind of message am I sending out? What am I saying to those kids and that congregation who listen to me when I get up and preach principles every Sunday?
It's very easy to raise your hands and vote. Thumbs up, Andrew stays. Thumbs down, he goes. But I think we must realize that there is a great deal more at stake here than just a young man's career, as important as that is.
Amen to that. What's at stake is the moral fiber of this church, or this whole community.
As I was saying, before we decide, I think we must be very sure that we are choosing out of strength and not weakness, out of knowledge, not fear.
Well, Andrew Carpenter is the only one who ought to be afraid.
And he is. Oh, Philip, he is very afraid. Not for himself, though, for us. He's afraid of the damage that we will do to ourselves and to this church if we make the wrong decision. Now, Billy Douglas came here earlier of his own free will, and he told us Andrew did not try to seduce him. Andrew never laid a hand on him, and it took a great deal of courage for Billy to come here. I hope and pray that we have the same courage.
But you are missing the whole point, Victoria. If the Reverend Carpenter is homosexual, he should have the courage to say so and to step down as the leader of this church. Instead, he's hiding behind some smoke screen of constitutional rights.
You do believe in the Constitution, don't you, Elizabeth?
Now, listen, Victoria, don't get snippy with me. If homosexuality is all that benign, and if it's just another lifestyle, Why hide it?
Because society punishes you for it, just as we are about to punish Andrew. And, may I remind you, we don't even know for sure that he is gay.
Which brings us right back to Elizabeth's point. Why doesn't he have the backbone to say what he is?
Because he believes that as long as a person does his job well, what he does in his private life is nobody's business.
He believes in good old American privacy.
Well, he can have as much as he wants when he's unemployed. Now, I say, enough talk, let's vote. Now, what do you say, Virginia?
Okay, come on now, Andrew. It's the heat. It's the heat. Nothing to be nervous about. Right. Just your life.
Andrew. So sorry to be doing this to you, Andrew. We were actually about to vote, and then I managed to convince the other vestry members to talk to you one more time before we decide. Please, sit down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Vicky, thank all of you. Even though I've decided to remain silent on certain issues, I think I still can speak loud and clearly on those issues that I think are important.
I must say I'm very pleased with your attitude, Andrew. Some people had led us to believe that you might not cooperate.
Not at all. Not at all, Mrs. McNamara. I believe the vestry has every right to hear an explanation of my actions in my own words. So, Vicky, any protocol in mind?
I don't really think we've ever had a situation like this at St. James, so why don't we just start with someone asking the first question?
Or throw the first stone.
I suppose my family started this, so we should finish it. We, that is I, have been asking myself a lot of questions. Questions I'm not used to asking.
Well, I think that we're all asking questions that we're not used to, Mrs. Douglas.
What is a homosexual? What does it mean? Is it just a lifestyle, or is it an illness?
Or a sin?
If it's bad, do we want a homosexual to be the leader of our church? Do we approve of this kind of life? Do we approve of the person who leads? You see, Reverend, it's very confusing when all we want to know is whether or not you're a homosexual.
Exactly. And if you are homosexual, say so. And then we can get on with the important business of the church.
Mrs. McNamara, I think you know by now that I won't answer that question. Now, I say won't, not can't. And that's a choice I make for not only myself, but everyone in this room, because we value our privacy. What goes on in our homes, in our bedrooms, is sacrosanct.
Right on.
So sacred that I am willing to defend your right and my right to have a private life. That's what this is about.
Yes, but you are not a private person, Reverend. You are the minister of this church, and you are the role model for our children. And I think that we have a right to want a normal person to lead St. James and not a pervert.
For the most part, that's true. You have every right to demand that your minister behave in ways that is not going to discredit his calling or your faith in him. And if I was a drunk or a embezzler or flagrantly promiscuous, you could call into question my ministry. Those are public acts, not private. But what goes on in your home, in your bedroom, is not public. It is private. This much I have to say to you. I have done nothing. Nothing to be ashamed of. And if this church is to stand for anything, it's to stand for love and for understanding. And Mrs. McNamara, words like pervert are not going to help us solve these problems.
Well, if you ask me, we've had enough words. Period.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Now,
I
listen,
think we
Vicky, I'm very sorry, Vicky. But we have given this young man every chance. And if he can't or won't answer the simplest, most basic question, then I say let's vote.
Yes, and I second the motion.
I think we have a lot more
Vicky,
questions.
please, you've done so much already. I think I've had my say. And, it's, I think, up to each of you to, vote your conscience. Thank you for letting me speak my piece.